Wabin. I'm from the Writers Block Party. Also have a company called Party Entertainment. We basically are a place where new writers and producers can come and be seen and be heard by A&Rs and music supervisors, and we're just the avenue for the up and coming guys who can't get those meetings to come and have a place for their music. My name is Philea Knight. I have a management company called Grindstone Inc. where we manage songwriters and producers. I am formerly of Hitco Music Publishing and formerly of Def Jam's A&R department, and
my name is Ian Holder, Associate Director of Writer Publisher Relations for BMI, formerly of Columbia Records A&R department. We collect performance royalties for all songwriters, so
How's everybody doing? My name is Chris Avid, entertainment attorney. It's good to be here today, and I am proud to say that some producers I met years ago who didn't have anything going on have just gotten placements after years and years of hard work and dedication, because that's what it takes. On the last 3 6 Mafia album, G-Unit album, Chris Brown and Rihanna, and it's great to work with people who are hungry, and I look forward to talking with all of you today.
How you doing? My name is Walter Jones. I'm the urban membership rep for ASCAP here in New York. Prior to that, DJ, road manager for Montel Jordan, DJ for gospel artist Dietrich Hatton, Algebra Blessed, and I work with songwriter, independent artist Eric Rose.
Good afternoon. My name is Kevin Mitchell. I'm currently the replacement on the panel. I'm scheduled to be on the music and gaming and the music supervision panel on Friday at 1 o'clock at this location here. But I do have past experience as a manager, managed Nappy Roots, Lord Peter Guns, Easy Mobile, I name producers, and I also do a lot of consulting, Sony BMG, Viacom, BET, and I also consult a lot of producers with royalty collection, and it's important because a lot of these guys had placements on records and they got jerked, and I help them collect their royalties domestically and internationally.
Music publishing is basically the way that your music is going to make money. There are different sources in that. When your song is played on the radio, you get income. These two organizations, BMI, ASCAP, and there's another one, CSAC, they will track how many times it's played and they will give you money for that. You can get your money from record sales. You can get your money if your record is used in a commercial or in a movie or something like that. They have to pay you for that. So that's really how your song is going to make its money, is through the music publishing. Anytime somebody uses your song for anything, if somebody wants to sample your song, if somebody wants to recut it, you know what I mean? If for instance, how many records are out now that records like two years ago? You know what I mean? The Mano record, High Hater, we all know that was the record that was used, the remix for Mary J. Blige, it was used for tons of stuff. Whoever owns that original record gets paid every time somebody else uses it. And they have to give that person's permission to use it. So that's kind of like your ownership to the song, and the way your song is really, really going to make you money for the rest of your life.
Cool. Here's the foundation of it all. There's 2 copyrights in music, okay? There's a copyright in the song that you write, and there's a copyright in the recording of that song. Forget the recording for the rest of this panel, all right? The publishing, when we talk about publishing income, it deals with the copyright in the song, and that's owned by songwriters. What a lot of folks forget is if you're a beat maker, if you actually compose a beat, you have ownership in that song. If I compose a beat and Walt writes the lyrics and Ian records it, all right, you have Walt and I owning the actual song. So every time, let me back up on that, you want to register that song with the Copyright Office on what's called Form PA. You get that at copyright.gov. Now they just changed it, it's all digital submission now. That's where you go. And then before Walt and I leave the studio, we want to sign what's called a split sheet. Because the copyright form just asks who are the authors, who are the writers. It doesn't say how the income is going to be split up. Well, I want to sign a split sheet. And I'm sure we're going to get into different income streams here soon.
And then, you know, I'm sure you guys pretty much know the breakdown in terms of you have mechanical royalties and then you have performing royalties, which Walt and I both, you know, we both collect on behalf of that. So basically, in terms of performance rights, what we're going to do is we're going to collect royalties that's pretty much based off of radio, television, internet, you know, and a lot of other things that stems from that. So basically, how he pretty much broke it down is to where, you know, there are splits involved and everything like that. You know, it gets kind of detailed as to, you know, depending on the what exactly you bring to that record, that will pretty much determine what you are getting in terms of percentages, which I'm sure we'll get into that.
What's up, everybody? Omar Grant, creative director at EMI Music Publishing.
Got a question as far as those split sheets are concerned. What about for, I mean, we're in a room full of producers, when they're not in the studio with, say, for instance, the writer as far as that's concerned, or the artist as far as the split sheet is concerned, they're not there as far as filling that out is concerned. How should they go about handling that procedure as far as moving forward?
I like to think it's fairly simple. If I produce a track and I give it to Mano, whatever, you know what I mean, and there's a sample, and once that gets cleared, I know my percentage on the composition, on the production of the song is whatever it is, and then there's another 50% for the actual lyric and melody, you know what I mean, and they can break that down however they want to break it down, or once the sample is taken away, I'm only saying that because I know a lot of you all sample, but once that's taken away, then you can break down the other 85% of the record amongst all the writers on the record. You know what I mean? I think that's big.
If you have leverage. If you have leverage, you can get that sample to what's called come off the top. If you don't have leverage, for instance, if you're a producer, this is your first placement, and your first placement is with LL Cool J. Or Neo, let's say. If Neo writes and you use a sample, if Neo writes that song, he's using it. 9 times out of 10, he's going to try to say, that sample is part of the music. You did that, that's on you, you got to eat that sample. And they're going to want that sample to come out of your portion of it, and they're going to want their portion to remain intact. Once you get a little bit of leverage, or if you have a lawyer who can, you know, work magic or whatever, then you can say, you know what, no, that sample needs to come off the top. Or you can try to negotiate that before you really even get paid and before y'all get too deep into it. But that's an issue because a lot of people are going to want the sample to come out of the music because they're going to say, well, that's part of the music, you should eat that. And a lot of music people are going to say, well, you knew it was a sample when you wrote to it. And you chose the one with the sample, so you should bear that burden with me.
If no sample, just break it down equally and fairly. Like, you know, if you did the music, that's half of the song. If somebody did the lyric, it's another half of the song.
And that's how it works in an honest world. Let me share a quick war story with everybody that'll really hit this home. It is your job, seriously, as a producer, as a beat maker, to have a relationship and proactively be involved in that entire process. And it's tough. It's tough, especially if it's your first placement, it's your first track. They just want the track. They want, you know, write lyrics to it, record it, and you're kind of pushed to the side. But here's the problem. If you don't have a split sheet, if you don't have those splits, all right, if there's any income generated, if there's some radio play at BMI, I'm sorry, if there's some radio play and BMI is paying out on it, ASCAP's paying out, CSAC's paying out on it, if it was a soundtrack, was featured a soundtrack on a film, all right, and then that starts getting played on television and ASCAP, BMI, CSAC are paying out, or maybe it's on an actual soundtrack to be sold, your royalty checks won't get paid out to you until that full split sheet is at BMI, at ASCAP, at Universal, the royalties Because otherwise, they can even tell you sometimes, if they know, hey, you have 50% of the publishing for doing the music, but we don't know how the other lyrics are owned. We don't know how the remaining 50 cents are owned. So here's the amount we owe you, but we can't cut the check. You always want to get that as fast as you can.
And if you can't get an actual physical piece of paper signed by everybody, because when we're referring to split sheets, that's really what we're talking about, is one sheet of paper that everybody signs off on. If you can't get that, at least try to get communication going back and forth, emails from attorneys, whatever. And that, I mean, that might not be something that you do, that may be something that your manager handles or your attorney handles. But I can tell you, as a HICO representative, a former HICO representative, there were $2 million sitting for Sierra's goodies for years. Literally, it just got cleared. They still did.
I mean,
they worked. Put it this way: as of January, they had come up with a solution, but they probably haven't executed the solution.
Yeah, she's actually straight. It's other people on there that's not straight.
You know what? Then no, Johnny just talked to gospel because she's straight to God. Basically, what happened is P.D. Pablo wanted 30% of the record. He said, "I rapped in the beginning, I rapped in the middle, I want 30% of the record." Well, the people who actually wrote the song, which was Sean Garrett and Sierra a little bit, they were like, "We wrote the whole song. That's worth more than 20%. Like, how you gonna do that?" And then on the music side, there was Lil Jon, there was Marquise, there was a bunch of different people. So all of these people were squabbling. And that record was just spinning, and that album was selling. $2 million sitting. And the record label could care less. Nobody could care, because they're like, okay, well, it's gonna sit in our bank account and we're gonna gain interest on it. So we don't care. Y'all go ahead and fight amongst yourselves. It took people really calling each person and figuring out, and it got down to people not wanting to reduce their split by 2.5%. Like arguing about 2.5%, and it's not that serious. And finally it got worked out, straightened out, but it's like if they had figured out what the splits were going to be early on, that money wouldn't have sat there for 2 years. You just made somebody else a whole bunch of money off of your $500,000 that was sitting there waiting for you to collect.
And guaranteed, if you don't collect your money, somebody else will. But domestically and internationally, you will find that people look out for producers that do not collect their publishing, and they will collect it for you. I can tell you many horror stories where publishing sits around for a few years, and there are guys that go through agencies in the UK, and they will collect your royalties. And by the time you track them down, they'll close their company down, and you'll never get paid. So it's just a very serious matter. So, like I said, you gotta stay in touch from the beginning to make sure your songs are registered. Because if they're not registered, I can assure you that a shark is gonna come take your money, and you're gonna have a hell of a time trying to collect it.
Register your copyrights and get your split sheets. You do those two things, you'll be so far ahead.
There's different type of publishing deal that you can have, and this is a publishing deal that basically makes sense to you as a songwriter. You know, I mean, different things make a publisher reach out to a songwriter. Like, I mean, I don't know about some of the other publishers who are on here, but I mean, sometimes a new writer is not always ready for a publishing deal. I don't reach out. Like, you have to be like kind of incredible for me to just say, well, like straight up the street for me to want to sign. A lot of times when people have hits on the radio, you know, we go out there and search for the people who have hits on the radio, or try to buy publishing, try to buy into songs, you know, different situations like that.
You, as a publisher, you want to make money with somebody. So your first thing is going to be either somebody who's already made a bunch of money, and like you were saying, that they've got a song on the radio, they haven't done a pub deal yet, but you know that every time that song plays, that's money generated. So you're like, okay, well, if I offer them a pub deal, I know I'm going to make money off of it. You know what I mean? Because there's already money in what they call the pipeline, which is money that's being accumulated, that just hasn't been paid out yet. Or you may say, okay, this dude has a couple of placements, or even if they don't, but I see that they're really, really talented, and I really, really believe in them, so I want to go ahead and sign them and help them break, and then that'll make my money that way. And then there are a couple of pub companies who will see somebody who's not quite ready yet, but they'll say, okay, you know what, I want to develop you. So I'm going to offer you a really small deal, but I'm going to work with you and try to get your skills up and keep going in the hopes that eventually it will pay off and you'll become a great songwriter.
And in that sense too, it's like what makes sense to you. Like exactly when you said it was somebody that you're trying to develop, like a lot of times it's going to be a small publishing deal. Like you want to give up your publishing deal for a small amount of money, you know, or lesser advance, or you want to wait till you get some hits, you get some weight in your belt so you can, you know, sell your publishing for the highest possible money that you can get at that time. But I mean, it's also what makes sense to you, because like you're a person who's like To give you an example, if you don't have the resources to reach out to another songwriter, if you're producing, you want songwriters, and you want the opportunity for me to like fly you somewhere to work with other people, or give you opportunities to another person out there, a physical person out there shopping your music, you might say, okay, well, I don't have anything out there, but I want, or anything huge out there, but I want to publish it there because I need somebody else in my corner that's going to try to help me get to that next level and try to blow me up. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on what you feel like you should do at your time. Should I wait for that big check, or should I get that person and try to help me bring me to that next level? You know?
I was going to say a co-pub deal that you touched on a second ago. A co-pub is when you actually sell somebody half your publishing, basically. You say, okay, I'm going to give you half my publishing, and in return, you're going to give me this amount of money. An admin deal, like he was talking about, is they don't actually take a part of your publishing, but they just take a percentage of the money. They say, okay, we're going to collect all the money, we're going to administer or do the administration for your publishing. So we're going to go out there and chase all your checks and your royalties and all that and bring all that in. And for that, we're going to take a certain amount of that money as like a fee, basically a collection fee. So those are the two different types of deals he was talking about that you can actually do. Right, they don't own anything, all they do is take a percentage of the money that comes in.
And usually in that side, we don't work your stuff as much as we do, or even that for a co-pro situation, so just keep that in mind too.
Like, say that one more time?
Like when you do admin situations, since we don't own part of the copyright, we only get a small percentage, we wouldn't necessarily, like, you don't really have a budget for us to put you in the studio and do a lot of other things for you, so we just basically
Yeah, I'd like to add that on the basic level, you must have an administration deal, at least to collect. If you guys have an international hit, you're going to be responsible for going to every single territory, Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, to try to collect your money. So it's important to have an administrator that has global potential to collect all your royalties, to check the exchange rates. You're going to get different rates in different countries, different scales. So when you're thinking about a co-publishing scenario and giving up half your publishing, you should at least consider an administration situation to properly collect your royalties.
You do a record for Fabulous. Fabulous goes on Jimmy Kimmel. There's going to be paperwork that comes in that you have to deal with. So there's a lot of paperwork that comes in when you have a record that pops. The publishing company is going to take all that off your hands. You don't have to worry about it. They're going to handle all of that for you. All the licensing, all the negotiating. Like, let's say General Motors wants to use your record in one of their commercials. Well, you're thinking records, so you're like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna knock for $25,000. No, I'm gonna say $50,000. I want $50,000. Well, little did you know, they were ready to pay $225,000. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know that stuff. Publishing companies deal with that stuff on a regular basis, so they know how to negotiate different fees and for different things. It's a lot of work. So they handle all of that administration, and then if you were with a good publisher, or you have a relationship with your publisher, then they're going to help you work your actual material. Which means when you do a new song, they can help you get it into the right hands. If you're looking for songwriters, they can try to hook you up with songwriters. They can help you set up meetings for A&R people, with A&R people and that sort of thing. So I feel a publishing company should work you. You know what I mean? They should actually work you. Sometimes it's not possible because the company is just so big and they have 300 writers and there's only 5 people that work there. Well, it's physically impossible to work 300 people at all times. So then they may only work the people who are really in their face, or the people who really are, that they see are really putting in the effort and are really working. Because I'm going to tell you now, if you ain't working, I ain't working.
That's a good point. I mean, you have to be kind of proactive yourself, because like she said, you have, like the rosters on publishing companies are huge, you know? And if you're not proactive, you're not out there like sending us the music or keeping us involved or wanting us to, you know, like calling me like, I'm in town, I want to set up a meeting with somebody, or who you have, like, who's working. You know, you have to reach out. Like, we'll reach out to a certain extent, but if you're not reaching back at us, you know, we have other people that are willing to work and want to work, you know?
I want to say this just to make sure we're not presupposing anything. But when you have your copyright, right? We talked about the copyright for the song earlier. Okay, you own that for your life plus 70 years. All right, and if 2 people collaborate, it's the date of the last survivor plus 70 years. All right. There are a lot of different income streams for publishing money, but the 3 primary are mechanical royalties. Every time a unit is sold, a recording of your song, there's 9.1 cents paid out. All right? Every time that, she talked about it being in a GM commercial, every time your music is synced up to a visual, That's called, there's a sync license. That's a flat fee. And every time your music's played publicly on the radio, or that commercial with GM is played publicly on television, all right, that's a public performance. ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, pay that out. Without getting real detailed and like a real academic discussion, you have to think of your publishing as like a pie. That publishing income is a pie. Half of that 9.1 cents, half of that sync license fee, half of that public performance money is paid to the owner of the writer's share and the owner of the publisher's share. If I write a song and I do everything on myself, I compose the beat, the lyrics, the melodies, the arrangements, whatever, I own all that 100%. And I don't have any sort of deal, publishing deal. I own half the writers, so that 4.5 cents, that half the 9.1, the 4.5, it goes to the writer's share on mechanical. The other 4.5 goes to the owner of the publisher's share on mechanical. I own all of that, all right? When you do a co-publishing deal, at least if I'm representing you, you keep your full writer's share, and then half of the publisher's share you keep, and the publishing company then has. So in essence, you as the writer have 75% of your overall interest. The publishing company has 25%. If it's an admin deal, like everybody said, there's actually no copyright or no publishing interest divided. It's just a piece of the overall income that's collected. I'll tell you something. That's publishing is a complicated subject. It seriously is. You know, I always say there's music in the music business. Everyone's here for the music business, but publishing is, if there's music business 101, publishing is music business like 202. I mean, it's really a complicated thing, but it's something that if you just understand that you as a producer, because here's the reality too, there's a big difference between being a beat maker and a producer. A producer is really, there are producers who don't write any of a song, especially in like rock, country. They go in the studio, they record it, they say sing it this way, don't sing it that way. But in hip hop and R&B, in pop, when you're actually composing a part of the beat, think of yourself as that. You're a writer. You're writing part of the beat. If you master that and you understand that you own a piece of that copyright and you register that and you get a piece of that split, you're in a great position. And that's your foundation.
I'm gonna say this for ASCAP, I guess me can touch on for BMI, but people often ask like, what do we do? And it's real simple. Whenever your song is played on radio, TV, film, and even like AOL Music now or Yahoo Music, Yahoo Radio, AOL Radio, whatever, we pay a performance royalty. Please don't ever call and ask me, well, how much am I getting played? My song was just played on Hot 97. Like, I can't tell you, like, I can't, but what happens is you collect the credit. And then those credits, they're weighted. So a spin on Hot 97 may be different from a spin on a radio station in Kansas. It goes into a formula, and it's a random survey that they do on radio, TV, and film, and the internet. It goes into a formula, and that's how they figure out how they pay. You can check the distribution dates on ASCAP.com. When we pay out for writers, when we pay out for publishers, when we pay out for international. We do not collect your mechanical royalties. Really performance. If you're on one of the top 20 grossing tours, we'll pay on the performance of those songs. Another really important thing is to register your song. If you do not have a publishing deal, you are your own publisher. You should register your song with ASCAP or BMI or CSAC. That way we know that song exists. We know who it is, who to pay when it comes up in the survey. And our focus is more so the writers of the record, the producers of the record. So, in essence, we don't care about Jay-Z, the artist, we care about Jay-Z, the writer. You know what I mean? Timbaland, the producer. That's the focus because we pay the songwriters, like our writers for the songwriters. What else is there? We have a New York office I'm in, we have an Atlanta office that Tremaine's in, we have an LA office that my boss is in, and Jay Sloan and Alonzo Robinson. So we're pretty much everywhere. And you can call us anytime if you need a heads up on anything. And that's ASCAP.